Deadwood is a HBO surprisingly factual Western series starring Timothy Olyphant, Ian McShane, Molly Parker, and Brad Dourif, set in the late 1800s and revolving around the colourful and complex characters of Deadwood in South Dakota, a lawless town drowned in corruption and crime. And when I say lawless, I mean literally lawless, as the town has yet to be annexed and has no real form of governance. It kind of reminds me of Thieves Landing in Red Dead Redemption. Deadwood is one of those shows I knew about for a long time but just never watched. I knew it was known for being very vulgar, it was known for Ian McShane's performance, it was known for being very good, and prematurely cancelled, with a movie being made about 15 years later to wrap up the story. Created by David Milch, Deadwood is extremely character-driven by a set of wonderful, captivating characters, some recurring and some one-offs. But it's so character-driven that, in spite of the fact that I've seen the entire first season, which is about 12 episodes at about 1 hour each, so that's 12 hours worth of the show, and if you ask me what it's about in terms of the story, I would really struggle to answer. That's how little emphasis there is on the story and how much development there is on the characters. Sure, there is something of a main character in Timothy Olyphant's former marshal, Seth Bullock, new in town and looking to start a business with his partner Saul, star in this camp of people trying to make a civilization out of chaos and barbarity. And the title of main character could arguably also belong to Ian McShane's aptly named Al Swearingen, a brothel owner with a deliciously profane tongue and a sinisterly apt dedication to ensuring his business remains successful, even if it means a few people in town have to disappear. The series isn't really episodic like a mini movie within each episode. Neither does it have much of an overarching story over the course of the series. The plot doesn't have much scale. It's like we're simply watching everyday life. Strangely, it's still remarkably captivating. It has a nice slice of life kind of feel, like all these people are real life characters and a camera just happens to follow them around. It doesn't feel restricted by genre or tropes, like having a big climax at the end of the season or something, which it doesn't. And yet there are numerous shocking and surprising things that happen in the show. Sticking with the realism, and of course none of us know what it was exactly like to live in a small western town back in the 19th century, but Deadwood sure feels damn close to what it would be like in real life. There's no charismatic hero here, no John Waynes or Clint Eastwoods, even if Timothy Olyphant does a great impression of what I sometimes pretend is a young Eastwood character. There is so much confidence and conviction in the completely authentic looking sets and costumes, the accents that you could listen to all day, and the way the characters look. Even one of the all-time great TV shows, The Sopranos, took a while to get going. The first season had a few teething problems, but Deadwood, even in its first season, is as self-assured and assertive as Al Swearingen at one of his town meetings. Perhaps the standout key feature of Deadwood, putting its grim, gritty and realistic dark depiction of the Wild West aside, is the wonderful dialogue, Shakespearean if it wasn't for the excessive profanity. The dialogue is masterfully intricate and poetic even, and sometimes it just makes Deadwood a straight-up comedy. The way the characters talk about the most mundane of things and the way they get their simple points across makes up for most of the runtime. And in stark contrast to how boring you'd think that sounds, it's ridiculously entertaining. By far the show's biggest selling point. There's so much detail in the dialogue that's easy to miss. There's things I only noticed with subtitles on and re-watching scenes again and again. The characters in the show are wonderful and the actors chew on the brilliant dialogue they're given. Most notably Ian McShane in a brilliantly boisterous role as Al Swearingen. I've always liked Ian McShane in things I've seen him in. He's great in films like Sexy Beast, great screen presence, but he's hardly in the film. I've seen him in mainstream movies like the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean film, where his talents are wasted. I've just never felt like he's ever had his role, if that makes sense. The part that he takes complete hold of and he is remembered for, a part that makes full use of his abilities. Deadwood provides McShane with that very role. It's the role that defines him, and he defines it. One of the best things about this season was just getting immersed in the atmosphere, the smell of shit in the dark alleys, the background singing and piano playing as drunk characters prance around in bars. It really feels immersive. It feels like the Old West brought to life. Deadwood Season 1 is an entertaining and wickedly funny Western show, and when you take the time to think about it, it's a rich show with complex characters who are a joy to watch.